The way people read eviction notices. The way people read eviction notices. Slowly, twice, as if the words might change. Mildred, what is this? Not a question, a statement, the kind Dana made when she already knew the answer and hated it. That's the claims department, Tuesday and Thursday, 2 to 3:30. If you'd like to discuss the dinner menu, you'll need to book a slot. The next opening is Thursday. Dana looked at the paper, then at me, then at Tyler, who was walking past the kitchen in his baseball cleats, carefully placing a small yellow token on the counter without breaking stride. Grandma, 5 grandma coins for unloading the dishwasher. Logged, I'll update the ledger. Dana's mouth opened, closed. Mom, I need 40 grandma coins for screen time. I'm only at 23. From somewhere deeper in the house, my son Greg's voice floated through. Honey, everything okay out there? Dana didn't answer him. She was still looking at the paper. My name is Mildred Sharp, 68 years old, retired Chief Financial Officer, 32 years, Hargrove Manufacturing, annual revenue north of $40 million. Widow. Grandmother of Tyler, age 8, and Sophie, age 11. 3 weeks ago, my daughter-in-law, Dana Briggs, MBA, productivity consultant, author of a LinkedIn newsletter called Lead with Leverage, gave me a book called Time Management for Leaders and explained with genuine kindness that I needed to stop being simply loving and start being useful. I read the book in 2 days, cover to cover. Dana didn't know I'd done that. She also didn't know about the ledger, the token system, the claims department operating schedule, or the pawn shop I'd opened in the living room on Thursday. She was about to find out about the pawn shop. Pawn shop at the fireplace. Accepts household items in exchange for grandma coins or home-cooked meals. Current inventory. She stopped. Mildred, where is my silk robe? I adjusted my reading glasses. Collateral. Against an outstanding balance of 47 grandma coins owed from last Tuesday's dinner reservation that was canceled without 48 hours' notice. It's all in the ledger. Dana put the paper down on the counter very carefully, the way you put something down when what you actually want to do is throw it. You pawned my robe. I processed a collateral asset against an unpaid account, Dana. That's just market economics. You said so yourself. Please like and subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story. Now let me tell you how we got here. It started with a book. 3 weeks before the pantry line, on a Sunday morning in October, Dana came downstairs in her silk robe, the same robe that would later become collateral, carrying a coffee mug and a gift-wrapped package. She set it on the kitchen table in front of me with the careful deliberateness of someone presenting evidence. Mildred, I got you something. I was making Tyler's oatmeal. Sophie was at the table doing homework she hadn't done Friday. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and burnt toast because Greg always burned his toast and never once in 11 years of marriage learned to lower the setting. That's thoughtful, Dana. What's the occasion? No occasion. I've been thinking about how you spend your time here with the kids. I put the oatmeal in front of Tyler. He didn't look up from his tablet. Tablet off during breakfast. 1 second. Now, please. He turned it off. This is relevant later. Dana unwrapped the package herself, which told me everything I needed to know about how this conversation was going to go. She slid the book across the table. Time Management for Leaders, a productivity framework for the modern home. A man in a tie on the cover, looking at something off camera with quiet confidence. There's a whole chapter on structured engagement with children. KP is, reward systems, accountability frameworks. The author is fantastic. He consulted for Google. I thought maybe you could use some of these ideas instead of just, she paused, just loving them. The kitchen was quiet for a moment. Sophie looked up from her homework. Tyler looked at the book. Greg, who had just appeared in the doorway with his burned toast, looked at the ceiling. Instead of just loving them. No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, in addition to structure and love, both. It's actually better for their development. There's research. I picked up the book, looked at the cover, looked at the man in the tie. How wonderful. Thank you, Dana. She smiled, relaxed, picked up her coffee. Greg caught my eye over her shoulder. His expression said, I am so sorry, and also, please do not burn the house down. I smiled at him too. What Dana didn't know about me could fill a quarterly report, which I know how to write because I wrote them for 32 years. I started at Hargrove Manufacturing at 31 as a junior accountant. I left at 63 as CFO. In between, I managed a department of 16 people, oversaw 2 mergers, survived 3 recessions, and once presented a restructuring plan to the board of directors at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday after working through the night because the external auditors had found a discrepancy that turned out to be a decimal point error in a spreadsheet that a 24-year-old named Kevin had made at 11 p.m. on a Friday. We fixed it, Kevin cried. I bought him a sandwich and told him to go home. I knew what KPIs were. I had written KPIs. I had fired people who missed KPIs and promoted people who exceeded them. I had sat in rooms with consultants who charged $400 an hour to tell me things I already knew, and I had smiled and nodded and then gone back to my office and done what actually worked. I knew what a productivity framework was. I also knew that Dana's LinkedIn newsletter, Lead with Leverage, had 842 followers, which I had checked while reading her bio, which I had found while reading the acknowledgments of the book she gave me, in which she was thanked by the author for her sharp strategic insights. I read the book in 2 days. It was fine. The chapter on reward systems was actually useful. I started thinking. The thing about Dana was that she wasn't a bad person. This is important. The story doesn't work if she's simply a villain, and she wasn't. She was a person who had decided, somewhere along the way, that efficiency was the same as love, that systems were the same as care, and that anything which couldn't be measured probably wasn't valuable. She managed her family the way she managed her clients, with frameworks, with metrics, with a whiteboard in the kitchen where the children's responsibilities were listed under the heading Weekly Deliverables. Tyler had a column. Sophie had a column. There was even a column with my name on it, which I discovered on a Wednesday when I came downstairs and found Dana adding items. I stood in the kitchen doorway and read, Mildred, alignment goals. 1. Reduce unstructured free playtime. Target, minus 30%. 2. Implement pre-approved snack protocol. 3. Attend weekly family sync, Sundays, 7 p.m. Dana, not turning around. Morning, Mildred. I added you to the board, just so everyone's on the same page. I looked at my column for a moment. Dana, am I an employee? Of course not. Your family. This is just, it's how we stay organized. It works really well for the kids. The kids have deliverables? It's a framework. Sophie walked in, looked at the board, looked at me, and then very deliberately poured herself a bowl of cereal and took it to the other room. Sophie was 11 and already had excellent instincts. Greg appeared behind me in the doorway. He read the board. He looked at me. He looked at the board again. Oh boy. I'll review my alignment goals and get back to you by Friday, Dana. I went upstairs. I sat at my desk. I opened the Time Management for Leaders book to the chapter on reward systems. I read it again, more carefully this time. Then I got out a legal pad and started writing. The Grammacoin system launched on a Monday. I had spent the weekend designing it with the thoroughness I used to bring to annual budgets. Every element had a purpose. Every rule had a precedent. The whole thing was documented in a spiral notebook I labeled Household Economic Framework Q4, a title I chose specifically because it was the kind of title Dana would use, and I wanted her to feel, when she eventually found it, a small, sharp pang of recognition. The currency, circular yellow tokens I found at a craft store. $1 for 20 tokens. I bought $4 worth. The exchange rate, 5 Grammacoins for small tasks, dishwasher, picking up shoes, setting the table, 10 for medium tasks, vacuuming a room, helping with grocery bags, 20 for excellent behavior during situations that historically ended in someone crying. Redemption options, screen time, 10 coins per 30 minutes, a homemade cookie, 5 coins, staying up 15 minutes past bedtime on a school night, 30 coins, 1 veto on a vegetable at dinner, 8 coins. I explained the system to Tyler and Sophie on Monday morning before school. Tyler's eyes went very wide, and he immediately asked how many coins he could earn in a week. Sophie asked whether the vegetable veto applied to Brussels sprouts specifically or vegetables as a category. Vegetables as a category, but Brussels sprouts cost 6 coins instead of 8 because they are genuinely terrible, and I believe in transparent pricing. Sophie said this was fair. Tyler shook her hand. They left for school. I made coffee. I waited. Dana came downstairs at 8:45. She read the laminated rate card I had posted on the refrigerator next to the weekly deliverables board. She stood there for a long moment. Mildred, what is this? A structured engagement framework for the children, with a reward system, based on the book you gave me. This isn't what the book... Chapter 7, Incentive Architecture in the Family Unit. I adapted it slightly for our context, but the core methodology is consistent with the author's framework. He consulted for Google, you mentioned. Dana looked at the rate card. She looked at the column on the whiteboard where my alignment goals were listed. Something moved across her face that I recognized from 32 years of budget meetings. The expression of a person who has just realized that the conversation they thought they were in is not the conversation that is actually happening. You're doing this ironically. I'm doing this structurally. There's a difference. She went to work. I updated the ledger. By Wednesday, Tyler had earned 43 grandma coins and spent 38 of them. He had negotiated a bulk discount on screen time that I approved because he'd made a written proposal, on a Post-it note, in red crayon, but still a proposal, and I respect process. Sophie had earned 29 coins and saved all of them. She was clearly waiting for something big. I respected that, too. Greg came home Wednesday evening, looked at the laminated rate card, looked at the children enthusiastically unloading the dishwasher, and sat down at the kitchen table with the expression of a man who was genuinely unsure whether to laugh or call his mother. He called me from the kitchen while I was upstairs. Mom, what are you doing? Implementing a structured engagement framework. Dana suggested I become more useful. She didn't mean, Mom, she didn't mean. I know what she meant, Gregory. A pause. Are you okay? I am excellent. Tyler unloaded the entire dishwasher this morning without being asked. Sophie has saved 29 coins for what I believe will be a significant purchase. Your children are learning about economics, delayed gratification, and transparent pricing. Mom, I'm going to start the pot roast. It'll be ready at 6:30. I hung up. I started the pot roast. It was ready at 6:28 because I have never once in my adult life been late with a pot roast. Dana came home at 6:40. She walked into the kitchen, smelled the pot roast, looked at Tyler carefully stacking coins into piles by denomination, and said nothing for a moment. Did you talk to her? I tried. And? She said Tyler unloaded the dishwasher without being asked. Dana looked at me. I was slicing bread. Dinner in 5 minutes. Sophie, coins in your room, please, not at the table. Dana sat down. She ate the pot roast. She didn't say anything about the framework that evening, which I noted in the ledger under observations. The claims department opened the following Monday. This was prompted by an incident on Saturday when Dana decided to reorganize the pantry, our pantry, in my kitchen, which Greg and I had moved into 3 years ago when his back started acting up, and I offered them the house because it was too big for one person and I didn't want to be far from the grandchildren. And in reorganizing the pantry, she threw away a jar of cardamom that I had been using for a specific Swedish cardamom cake I make at Christmas, the recipe for which had belonged to my mother, and which required that specific brand because I had tried 4 others and the flavor was not the same. I found the cardamom in the recycling bin. The jar was still half full. I stood at the recycling bin for a moment. Then I went upstairs. Then I came back down and retrieved the cardamom. Then I went upstairs again and sat at my desk. I thought about the cardamom for a while. Then I designed the claims department. The rules were simple. Any request to modify shared household spaces, routines, or resources required a written or verbal notice filed with the claims department no fewer than 48 hours in advance. The claims department was located in the pantry. Operating hours, Tuesday and Thursday, 2 to 3:30 p.m. Urgent matters could be escalated to the emergency window on Friday mornings before 9, subject to a processing fee of 1 home-cooked dinner to be delivered within 7 days. I posted the notice Monday morning. Dana found it at 7:45. Retroactive claims may be filed for incidents occurring within the previous 30 days. All claims are subject to review and resolution within 5 to 7 business days. The claims department reserves the right to... She stopped reading. Your mother. Greg. I heard. Are you going to say something? She found the cardamom in the recycling bin, Dana. A silence. It was taking up space. It was her mother's recipe. I didn't know that. Did you ask? This was, in 11 years of marriage, the most direct Greg had ever been with his wife about anything involving me. I was upstairs. I heard it through the vent above the kitchen, which I had discovered within the first month of moving in, conducted sound with remarkable efficiency, and which I had never mentioned to anyone. I sat very still and listened to the silence that followed. Then Dana's heels on the tile, the front door, her car in the driveway, Greg's chair, his footsteps, the stairs. He knocked on my door. Mom, can I come in? It's open. He came in and sat in the armchair by the window, the one that had been in our living room on Birchwood Drive for 20 years before we moved, and that Dana had once suggested donating because the upholstery was dated. I had not donated the chair. Greg looked at his hands. I'm sorry about the cardamom. It's just a spice. It's not just a spice. I looked at him. He was 51 years old, and he had his father's hands and his father's habit of apologizing for things that weren't his fault. Gregory, I am fine. You opened a claims department in the pantry. I implemented a structured administrative process for household resource management. Dana said I should be more systematic. He looked at me for a long moment. Is this about the book? What book? He almost smiled. He stopped himself. Mom, I know this is your way of... Look, could you maybe just talk to her directly? I tried that. She told me I needed a productivity framework. That's not... She put me on the whiteboard, Gregory. I have alignment goals. One of them is to reduce unstructured free play time with your children by 30%. Greg was quiet. That's a lot. It is. I didn't know about the whiteboard. I know you didn't. He sat there for another minute. Outside the window, a neighbor's dog was barking at something. The neighborhood smelled like October, wet leaves and wood smoke from someone's fireplace. I'll talk to her. You don't have to, Gregory. I want to. I know, but I have it handled. He looked at me with an expression that contained several things at once: love, worry, and the specific exhaustion of a man who understood that his mother had a plan and that the plan was already in motion, and that the best he could do at this point was stay out of the way and make sure nobody got legally hurt. Okay. The pot roast on Wednesday is going to be very good. It always is. He left. I updated the ledger. The pawn shop at the fireplace was not originally part of the plan. It emerged organically, the way all the best institutional innovations do, from a specific problem that required a specific solution. The problem was this. Dana, who had been notably quiet about the Gramacoin system and the claims department for 4 days, came home on Thursday with new decorative pillows for the living room sofa. 14 pillows. The sofa seated 3 people. I counted the pillows because I count things. She had, in the process of installing the 14 pillows, moved a framed photograph from the side table to the hall closet. The photograph was of my husband Robert and me at our 35th anniversary dinner. He had been dead for 6 years. The photo had been on that table since we moved in. I found it in the closet on a Friday morning, behind Dana's dry cleaning. I stood in the closet for a moment. I thought about Robert. I thought about the cardamom. I thought about the whiteboard and the alignment goals and the 32 years of quarterly reports and the fact that I had given them this house. Given it, not rented it, not loaned it, because I loved my son and wanted to be near my grandchildren. I went upstairs. I sat at my desk. I thought for a long time. Then I went back downstairs. I took the photograph out of the closet. I put it back on the side table, displacing 2 of the 14 pillows. I looked at Robert's face in the photo. I'm going to need a pawn shop. I said this to no one. It felt right to say it out loud. The pawn shop at the fireplace opened the following Monday, operating under the following terms. Any household item of personal or monetary value could be deposited with the pawn shop as collateral against outstanding Gramacoin balances or unredeemed claims department filings. Items would be held for a period of 30 days, after which they could be redeemed upon settlement of the outstanding balance or transferred to charitable donation. I posted the operating terms on the same board as the claims department notice. On Tuesday, Dana came home from a client meeting to find that her silk robe, left on the bathroom floor that morning in violation of the household tidiness agreement that she herself had written and posted 6 months ago, had been assessed a 5 Gramacoin untidiness fee applied to her running balance and accepted as collateral by the pawn shop. This was the morning she found the claims department notice. This was the morning she stood in the hallway holding the paper. This was the morning she said, "Mildred, where is my silk robe?" What happened next is something Greg still talks about in a particular tone of voice. Low, careful, slightly awed. The way people talk about weather events they survived. Dana did not yell. This surprised everyone, including me. She was the kind of person who expressed anger through precision. Her sentences got shorter, her posture improved, her eye contact intensified. She stood in the hallway and looked at me for a long moment. "You pawned my robe against a tidiness fee that you invented. The tidiness agreement was yours. I just applied the enforcement mechanism. There's a processing flowchart on page 2 of the claims department documentation." There's a page 2. There are 4 pages. I can get you a copy. This is insane. Dana, you gave me a book about productivity frameworks. You put me on a whiteboard. You gave me alignment goals. You threw away my mother's cardamom without asking. A pause. That was one thing. You moved Robert's photograph to the back of a closet behind your dry cleaning. The hallway went quiet. Tyler had appeared at the top of the stairs at some point. Sophie was behind him. Neither of them moved. Greg was in the kitchen doorway. He had his coffee. He was not drinking it. I was reorganizing. I know. You reorganize. You optimize. You implement frameworks. So do I, Dana. I did it for 32 years. I was very good at it. I ran a department of 16 people and an operating budget that would make your clients' budgets look like a grocery list. I didn't know that. No, you didn't. You saw a 68-year-old woman who baked cookies and let the kids watch too much television, and you decided I needed a productivity book. Dana was quiet. Her posture, for the first time since I'd known her, was not perfect. I am not your project, Dana. I am not an alignment goal or a deliverable or an item on your whiteboard. I am the woman who raised your husband and gave you this house to live in and makes pot roast every Wednesday because Greg's back hurts and he can't stand at the stove. I am Tyler and Sophie's grandmother, and the way I love them, unstructured, inefficient, unconditional, is not a problem that needs solving. The robe is in the hall closet, in the garment bag. I never actually pawned it. The pawn shop is theoretical. Theoretical. The principle was the point. You respond to systems. I built one. Dana stood there for a moment. Then something shifted in her face. Not quite a smile, not quite tears, something in between. You read the whole book. Twice. The chapter on incentive architecture is genuinely useful. I learned a few things. You adapted the reward system. Brussels sprouts cost 6 coins instead of 8. Tyler thinks it's fair. Sophie has thoughts. A pause. From the top of the stairs, Tyler's voice came down very carefully. Is the pawn shop closing? The pawn shop is under review. What about the claims department? Tyler, come have breakfast. Tyler came downstairs. Sophie followed. They passed through the hallway without looking at anyone and went to the kitchen with the careful neutrality of children who understand that adults are in the middle of something important and that the best move is to be very good and very quiet. Dana and I stood in the hallway for another moment. I put you on the whiteboard. You did. That was... yes. I didn't mean it as... I run everything like a project, and She stopped, started again. I'm sorry about the cardamom and the photograph. I looked at her. I had known Dana Briggs for 11 years. I had watched her organize my son's life into a series of optimized systems and efficiency gains. I had watched her love him in the precise, structured, competent way she loved everything, fully, but on a schedule. She was not a bad person. She was a person who had never been handed a book about herself. The photograph goes back on the side table. Yes. And you ask before you reorganize anything in the kitchen. Yes. And on Sundays, the children get 2 hours of completely unstructured time with me. No deliverables, no framework, no KPIs, just cookies and whatever they want to do. Dana took a breath. Can I sit in sometimes? I looked at her for a moment. You can, but you'll need grandma coins. How do I earn grandma coins? You help with the dishes. Same rate as everyone else. The whiteboard came down on a Saturday. Not dramatically. Dana just took it down one morning and replaced it with a calendar. A regular calendar, the kind with a month on each page and room to write things in. She put it in the same spot. My alignment goals column was gone. I didn't say anything about it. I made pancakes instead. Tyler ate 4 of them and offered to do the dishes for 10 grandma coins. I said 8. He said 9. I said fine, 9, but he had to dry them too. He agreed. Sophie pointed out that this was an unregulated negotiation outside the posted rate structure, and I told her the rate structure was under revision and she could file a comment with the claims department. Sophie said the claims department was closed. I said it was under new management. Greg looked at Dana over his coffee. She was reading something on her phone. She looked up, caught his expression, and almost smiled. Don't. I'm not saying anything. You're thinking it very loudly. I'm thinking that the pancakes are good. They are good. I heard this from the kitchen. I didn't turn around. I flipped the last pancake. I thought about Robert and about the cardamom cake I would make at Christmas, and about Tyler negotiating dish rates at 9 in the morning, and about Sophie filing regulatory comments over breakfast. I thought about the Time Management for Leaders book, which was still on my nightstand. I had flagged several pages. I thought about 32 years of quarterly reports and the specific satisfaction of a system that works. The pancake was perfectly golden. I put it on the stack. Breakfast is ready. Everyone came to the table. Отчет по структуре. Хук 2%. Очередь у кладовки. Система уже работает. Халат уже заложен. Зритель не знает, как дошло. 2 вопроса зуда. Что с халатом и как вообще до этого дошло? Наблюдение и обработка – 12%. Книга как легитимизирующий триггер. Биография Милдред через мысли в реальном времени, не через экспозицию. Зритель понимает, кто она. Развитие – ножи – 55%. Grandma Coins, доска с Alignment Goals, Claims Department, фотография Роберта в кладовке. Каждый нож чуть острее предыдущего. Абсурд нарастает методично. Кульминация – 18%. Разговор в коридоре. Не взрыв, разбор. Милдред не кричит. Это сильнее крика. Халат оказывается теоретическим. Система была про принцип, не про месть. Финал – 13%. Доска снята. Воскресные 2 часа без KPI. Дейна за столом с Grandma Coins. Примирение заработанное, не подаренное. Почему концовку досмотрят? Вопрос висит до последней сцены. Дейна изменится или нет? Ответ приходит не через спич, а через то, что она молча снимает доску и просит сесть за завтрак. Это не объяснено, это показано. Зритель должен дотерпеть, чтобы увидеть. Мат. Дейна внутри. 2-3 момента. Сдержанно. В точках максимального давления. Грег. Одно тихое слово в нужный момент.
Это не использовано в финальном тексте избыточно. Осталось в диапазоне 10-15 случаев.